Good everyone, it's Calvin here from the Cartoon Company in New Zealand. Right, it's a bit of a boring one today, but it's important and it will help a lot of people who are wiring a link ECU to both 1UZs, 1UZ VVTIs, 3UZs and 2UZ VVTI. Because we're going to go through the crank trigger patterns on these engines. I'm going to make some sense of this here, and hopefully at the end of it, it's going to help someone out immensely and solve their problems. We'll have some background, shall we? I got an email. I get lots of emails. I got an email for requests for help. I get a lot of emails for requests for help. And unfortunately, guys, I can't help everyone. I've got cars in my workshop I need to fix. And a lot of people don't realise that when a car comes in, there's a whole lot of other things that go on. Nose, ears, eyes, fingers. I try not to taste, but yeah, there's taste. You get a car running on methanol at 6.5 to 1, you can taste it. So it's really easy when the car is there, or a lot easier when the car is present. In this case, the car is in the USA, and the email happened to be, if I find the right one, I'll push this one. Oh, it's the wrong one. The email was from Sarah Untuned. Part of my process too, I've done a little bit of research, and Jason, my mechanic, has been watching all of this particular vehicle, and he did actually reach out and offer some help, but again, with a channel like this getting lots of messages, you don't get them all. Now what's the actual problem with this vehicle? And I'll probably actually wait a minute, we will go, we should talk about the vehicle. It's the RA21, now saying it in New Zealand, Celica project, getting a 2UZ. If we want to say it in American, it's a Toyota Celica getting a 2UZ. I started off and I watched this particular video here, and she's removing the air injection pump out of the center of the valley, and it makes me think that I really should do a video on that air injection pump. Okay, so a lot of people don't know about them, and I saw one the other day. People were lots of wrong answers, and the internet is fine for making lots of wrong answers. Right, next, I'm going to there we go. I'm going to move to the next one, and I'm going to steal a little bit of her footage, and it's in this video here. And I watched this yesterday. Jason sent me some other videos about what's going on. He gave me a bit of an update of what's happening and a couple of things. And then I found this video. We're going to listen to this video a little bit to understand what the problem is and what's going on.
That's old 2005 Toyota Tundra. In the previous video, I was in the painstaking process of trying to get a base map file created on the ECU for this engine to make it run properly. However, all right, powering on. I was running into a little bit of difficulties. Currently, I had Jimmy Oakes remoting in from Connecticut to my ECU to try to figure out how to calibrate the settings for my cam trigger to get this timing set on the engine correctly. What's causing the issue is we already did set base time and got the engine to run and idle successfully. However, after you shut it off, it loses the timing sync when you go to start it back up again, and you have to reset the base time. You want me to measure the yellow?
Yes.
Yeah, 4.09.
Australian energy suppliers
we
don't
don't
want
want
you to
ads.
know about this trick to warm up.
Right, so the engine's losing its base time. I've got it running, starts, runs, does what it should. Turn it off, it loses its base time.
when you stroke. And watch, it'll start right now.
Weird. Oh, what was the minimum voltage now for the crank trigger? Is it still 1.5 or 1.4 or whatever it was?
Yeah, no, it has a strong enough signal now. Like that sensor was weak.
Okay, good.
The problem is it's not doing anything with the signal. That's the only problem.
This right here is the factory Toyota cam position sensor from a 2UZ VVTi. You'll notice that it has 3 wires, which typically indicates that this is a Hall effect sensor. If this had 2 wires, it would be a reluctor, which the 2 VVTi cam sensors and the crank position sensor are. However, with this style of sensor, you have a signal for the ECU, a ground, and then a 5-volt reference coming from the ECU, which is how I had this thing wired up, because 3 wires, you'd expect it would be a Hall effect sensor. The problem is the engine keeps losing time every single time you shut it off, because this is not configured properly in the software, nor can it be configured properly in the soft. I'm not a tuner, but that's where we're at.
That's where we're at. Okay, so the problem with the sync of that engine, and that's pretty much the outline of the email. The video's given me more information than I got on my email. So standard practice that I have, if I am trying to do this sort of stuff, I test the person I'm working with, and I ask for 3 things. I ask for a tune profile so I can look at it. That came through. Ready? And it's right there. There's tune profile. Good. I asked for a trigger scope. That's the trigger scope that came through. Good and good. I also asked for a PC log. I didn't get a PC log, but I've got enough to work with. Okay. But I was still a bit blind, but I have since watched that video. I think if I pop over here, and I go over here, and I think there's a little bit here. This is
tuned yet with the flex fuel and stuff, because I have
an
no local tuners
That's
remotely close to where I live. And tuning a car is not something you want just anyone to do, because that's how you end up with a blown motor. So the next video I do on this car, I have work I can do regardless. So I'm just gonna keep chopping at it until I physically have nothing left to do. I'm at your guys' mercy right now. I'm reaching out to you, the viewers. I need help. I need to find a really top-notch spaceship fabricator level tuner that knows UZ engines in and out, and also knows Link software in and out, to give this thing a proper tune, and the MR2. So yeah, I need your guys' help. Thank you for watching. I'll see you soon with another video. Bye.
So that was a month ago that video was released. I've been sitting on the email for about a week actually, working out whether I wanted to go forth with this little project. And I thought, hey, it's going to be simple. It's going to be easy. It's actually turned out to be more than I thought, but it's also answered some questions that I've had. And that's been pretty exciting for me. We're going to go through that soon, and we're going to learn together. We've got a little bit more here. We'll just I've got a little smidgen here.
Sensor and not a reluctor. It shouldn't function that way. I found another YouTube channel that does a lot of stuff with these UZ engines, and from the video I saw, the guy was saying that what you can do is program this VVTi.
We're not going to talk about that, but we're crossing computers there. But let's listen to the rest of it.
Sensor on the left bank to dual function as the home cam sensor, and also for the VVTi function, and then have the right bank VVTi cam sensor just do the VVTi function. Problem is, I'm not an engineer, and it takes a lot longer than 2 or 3 days of reading on the internet and instruction manuals to learn how to tune an engine properly. Right,
so we know what the problem is. She found my channel. The little thing about the center cam, it's a different ECU, okay? It's a different ECU, but there is actually a problem with that, and it's been solved by doing this job. My hands like to be working, okay? That's why my hands are working. This actually happens to be a crank sensor. I was out of another vehicle, and I was called in. Incredibly clever man, amazing auto sparky with Jace Brown with Frankenstein. and we diagnosed a crank sensor. In the videos, we talked about there was some talk with Jimmy Oakes on some other stuff, and they mentioned that the crank sensor voltage was low, or was poor, or something else was going on. So I don't have all the information yet. So I'm about to produce a video based on not all the information, and I don't like doing that. But I could have just said, hey, this is what I think it is at the beginning. Sarah's taken a month to get to this point since the video was last released anyway. I figure what's another 20, 25, 30 minutes, okay? Sorry, this is going to be boring, but we are going to try and make some sense of this, and I'm trying to move quickly but not talk too fast because I get excited. And this is some new knowledge for me as well. Well, it's not really so much new knowledge, but what it's done is it's connected the dots on another problem I've been having. And it also highlights another issue that people, when get very high level at what they're good and very good at what they do. I've watched Sarah's videos and I'm incredibly impressed with the level of workmanship and her knowledge on this. And there is a background that points towards her having good knowledge on some of this sort of stuff. But people like us actually struggle to find people to reach out to and talk to and discuss these sorts of problems and throw ideas around. We also get hammered because sometimes we can be looking at a problem and it's a really simple problem, okay? And I did actually have to engage a little bit of help from Simon at Link ECU. Simon and I have been working together, doing stuff together for like 25 years. I go right back to when Simon had hair, and he definitely doesn't have any hair anymore. And neither one of us on our own could solve this problem. The right questions had to be asked and the right information had to be put through to understand and work out between the two of us where we had to solve it. Right. So Sarah sent me her tune file, and here's a tune file. I did a basic check of the tune profile. What's going on? Has it got a CAN lambda? No. Is there an oil pressure sensor? Yes. Is there a fuel pressure sensor? No. She was putting a manual gauge and checking with the manual gauge. Sarah, just put a sensor in the fuel pressure rig. Connect to the ECU. We can see it. We can log it. It's really helpful. But those bits don't concern us so much. It starts and runs, and when it does run, it seems to run okay. We're worried about that syncing of that engine, and actually, so it starts every time. So as we'll just go through it again, you'd start the engine. Or the engine can be started. It will run fine. You cycle the key, you turn the key off, you turn the key back on, and then it pops. Leaving the key on, shift the timing offset by 360 degrees, and it will start again. As I said, there was another issue with crank sensor possibly. I don't know about that. And there's we're looking at cam sensors and stuff like that. So I go into the trigger setup, which is right here. 2GRFE. Well, this is a 2UZ. VVTI. It's not a 2GR. So I asked myself, what is it doing there? Why is it there? I flick down here and I go find a pattern of a 2GR, and that's what the pattern looks like. For you guys that don't know, this signal at the bottom is a reluctor sensor, so it's an AC voltage. I will go through that another day on the exact differences between reluctor and Hall effect, which is a digital signal. Hall effect or optical, they both produce a similar signal. The Hall effect is a digital, the optical is a digital. Okay, it's an on-off signal, on-off, whereas the reluctor gives a variable voltage, and you can see it's not directly on and off. It ramps up and ramps down because it's producing an AC signal. And I look at that, and so there's actually signals all through here. It's all up and down. It's just got the dotted line. We've got 3 pulses. We've got a small one, we've got a medium one, and we've got a big one. So I look at the trigger scope that Sarah sent me. Here's our 720 degrees of engine revolution. We start there. There's 360 degrees, so 1 crankshaft revolution, half a camshaft revolution. There's your second crankshaft revolution, completing a full 720-degree engine cycle. In between that point and that point there, we have one small tooth, one small trigger, one big trigger, and one medium trigger. When it's overlaid here, we can see where it occurs. We can actually count where it occurs. We can see that there's a small one with a rising, and there's a rising, so there's two rising events happening in that 360, and we've got one rising in this 360 with two falling. This one's only got one falling event. One of the teeth cross the missing tooth in the crank trigger. There is the teeth difference between a 1UZ non-VVTI, that one, 12 teeth, no missing tooth, and this one is 36 minus 2, so 34 teeth with 2 missing in here. Okay, so those are the two trigger wheels. So if we look at our patterns, there we go, there's our 36 minus 2, and then the 36 minus 2 occurs again. Right, I also have a 3UZ trigger pattern. It will be the same as a 2UZ non-VVTI. It's the same as a 1UZ non-VVTI with a VVTI trigger wheel on the crank, which is what it actually is. And so I pulled that up. Okay, and you can see here we've got a reluctor for the crank, and we've got a reluctor on the cam. Okay, so it's an AC voltage. Again, it's laid over top so we can see where it occurs and all those sorts of things. Changing it from a rising to a falling will change their timing just a little bit. You can see it goes there to there, changes which tooth it occurs on. And in fact, it's really, really close to this one of where that signal occurs, where this signal occurs. I didn't do a count for this one. But you can see here, this is definitely not a reluctor. It's definitely a Hall effect type sensor. Now we need to have a look at, we've looked at trigger wheels. Let's look at the sensors. And I think I've got a picture here. Nope. Chiming tubes, all sensors. I would not touch that sensor with a barge pole. Very not genuine. But I wanted the picture. This is what Sarah had in the video. She showed a reluctor. Nope. She showed a Hall effect sensor, 3 wires. So a sensor ground, sensor voltage supply. In this case, it is a 5 volt, and a signal back to the ECU. As compared to, again, I probably wouldn't touch that one because definitely not genuine. Again, on a little bracket here, but 2 wires. So it has a ground, sensor ground, and a signal to the ECU. We've got good plugs. Look, that's a nice picture of the plug. Definitely 2 wires. Definitely got a little bracket on there, and the sensor pushes in. Actually, I haven't looked at whether the non-VVTI sensor fits into that bracket. And again, this is the sort of stuff that comes up when we're doing these sorts of videos. I'm nearly at 20 minutes too. This is going to be a long one, sorry. It's okay. We're going to solve the problem. And I'm learning. And because I'm talking too, it goes into my head well. Right, so I probably got them here as well. So that's, again, 2 wires. Are we going to let me change? Come on, I want to look at... Oh, it's the same one both times. It's the same picture. Whereas that one, that is a genuine one. 3 wires on a bracket. And you see there's a plug here. So that sensor itself has a little subloom that comes out through the hole at the front of the engine, at the front of the cam covers. And it's got this bracket and it's got this sensor in it. There's actually a little fine metal that runs across the front too, which is really interesting. I'm not sure. There it is. It's got that bit of metal that runs across the front, which is really interesting. All right. So we've got the different cam sensors. Why have they gone to that cam sensor? Well, if we look at these pictures, this is a really wide gap, and reluctor type sensors don't work well on these big wide trigger points. They want to have just like a little single tooth popping up to trigger over it, and it's that magnetic field, that movement, that creates the signal. Okay, so it doesn't work well with big gaps, so that's why they've done it. So that means there must be a difference in the trigger wheel. Again, thanks to the master, no timing, no, it's got to be here. I think that's the part number for a left hand, and both of these have the left hand trigger point. That's where they have the pickup. This is from a 1UZ VVTi or a 3UZ. See there? Oh, there, right there. One tooth, a single tooth for the home. We've got this bolt pattern here, which I was really interested in. And I probably should note that we don't have a lot of 2UZ VVTis here in New Zealand. We do lots of 3UZs. Lots of 1UZ VVTis, though they're getting old now. We don't see as many. Generally, we're doing the 3UZs. And the 1UZ non-VVTis, we often put that 36-2 crank trigger wheel on. And they had a trigger on both the left hand and the right hand camshafts. Whereas the 3UZ and 1UZ VVTi, they went to just the left hand, and the 2UZ non-VVTi has the same thing. It has a single pickup. Right, and then we're going to look at this one. Not a great picture, but we've got these big, long tooth trigger patterns. That gives us a big, long one, and we've got these small, medium, and large pickups. Right, slight interruption. So that is a 2UZ VVTi left-hand timing camshaft sprocket, trigger pulley, camshaft pulley, and using driver's side's crap. But I don't know if they did a left-hand Tundra actually. Oh, no, we got some like GX 470s that were right-hand drive, so it's the left-hand side cam pulley. Right, that's really interesting, and that's why we've got the trigger pattern that we've got. Okay, it's cool. There's the trigger pattern. Right, now if I go to this one, if I flick off this one and I'm going over here, and I know I'm jumping around, this is a 3UZ. Well, I'm just going to call it a 3UZ. Okay, we know it's the other ones as well. We're going to use that as the VVTi or the other VVTi engines trigger pattern. This is in the Link software, G5 software. It'll have a G4X Extreme in this particular vehicle. And in the scope here, we've got this trigger diagnosis. We push it, and it gives us a different pattern. So, to make it simple, and this may not be 100% correct, but I'll colloquialize it, use it in layman's figures. This is what's going into the ECU. So it's going into that pin on the ECU, and it's between the ECU header plug and the micro. Okay, so this is what is being delivered to the ECU. The trigger scope comes off before the micro, before the processor. This is what the processor is seeing. So what it does is it's converted that reluctor signal into a digital signal that the computer can use. So the processor is going, well, the threshold for that signal has passed the point. Yes, there is a signal. Yes, there is a crank input or speed input, and it creates a digital signal that the computer uses. Right. The bottom one is trig 2 signal, okay, and it's saying, again, it's got that reluctor signal. It says the signal has passed the voltage threshold that is required to generate a signal, and the computer can use that. Now, interesting enough too, on them, a lot of the time what will happen with these ECUs, and it's common to multiple ECUs, is once the engine is synced up, or it has, if it's got especially a missing tooth type pattern, it can't do it on a non-missing tooth generally, but especially on a missing tooth, right, that isn't quite correct, because it still can do it because it knows how many revolutions on a non-missing tooth. But on a lot of patterns, what it does is once it's synced the engine, it doesn't use the cam signal anymore. So on Sarah's engine, when it fires, if it does manage to sync up correctly, it doesn't worry if the cam signal is a bit funny, because it's just running off the crank trigger. Okay, you could turn it to wasted spark. Turn it to wasted spark and group injection. It'll run fine because it's not using the cam. Basically, turn the cam trigger off. But that's not the solution we want. We want sequential injection. We want direct spark. So this is a known working system. Okay, so this is, and I reference back to this one. I don't have the 2GR pattern, and it's a 2UZ DVTI. You can see that the trigger pattern that it is generating is very close to the 2GR pattern. That's why the 2GR pattern is being used. So we've explained that. Now I'm going to look at the same picture here. So here is Sarah's pattern, or her vehicle's pattern. There's your crank trigger. Okay, there's your cam. As I said, very, very close to that 2GR, which is, man, I got lots of pad tabs open right there, very similar. Okay, close enough. And often the ECU is only looking for that upward edge or the downward edge. Okay, and it might only go, well, I want to see a missing tooth. I want to see a missing tooth, and I want to see one downward pattern between these two teeth, so it knows which one it is, or I want to see two upwards patterns or whatever. So it's only often picking on one point to know which one it is having, what it's using. So here's Sarah's pattern. We go up to trigger diagnosis. We got a crank pattern. So this is being delivered to the ECU. This is what's being delivered to the micro. Now, actually, if I click over here, I can just come on. Look at that. Looking at the cam pattern. Where is it? Something happens. So for a split microsecond, every now and again, it will pick up something that allows it to sync. It then goes to the crank sensor using the missing teeth, use the crank sensor, and it will run. That's why it does run, but sometimes it doesn't run because that whatever that is happening right there either occurs on the wrong 360 gap, or it doesn't happen, and it just guesses. The computer's, I'll just guess, and maybe the computer is just guessing. So we have got a problem with the cam trigger. Now she mentioned about that sensor, the Hall effect sensor. There was a part in the video she changed signals trying to make it work. Okay, so we saw those triggers were different, and one thing I did consider actually is sometimes we default to what we know, and this is one thing that mechanics sometimes do, is we have a known thing that works, so we default to that and it works. Sometimes we don't go outside of that because we don't know whether it will work, and it's dollars to the customer. Okay, so one of the options I actually considered was was it that one? A 2-wire off a 3UZ with a, I got Toyo DIY open everywhere. This is the research I've been checking and crossing over and seeing what fits and seeing what doesn't fit, and it is nuts. And one of those. Now, I don't just have a 2UZ trigger pulley in stock to go try. I've got some mates in the USA who've got the 2UZs, but they don't have the 3UZ parts, and vice versa. I ordered some last night. Actually, I should go and pay for them now, and they will be here in 10 days or so, maybe 2 weeks. Doesn't get Sarah's car going now. So as I said, I've ordered some, and I want to see if that will fit. Now, Toyota also did another change. Have I got it? Oh, there we go. That's a 3UZ or a 1UZ VVTi. Actually, you got to be careful because the 3UZs and the 1UZ VVTis are different because they changed the thrust zone on them. And so the 1UZ VVTi heads have different, and they call it a timing tube. What's that called? It's a tube assembly camshaft. They changed the thrust zone in here, so that's why these have to be matched to the cylinder heads, and it catches people out. Whereas the 3UZ, they didn't put the colours on because they machined the heads all the same and fixed the problem, which makes sense to me. Okay, now here is a 2UZ timing tube assembly camshaft timing. The question is, will a 3UZ pulley bolt onto that? I'm fairly confident the little bracket on the front will fit, and the cam sensor will fit. I'm not sure I've got the spare brackets actually. I know I've got some genuine ones there. Hopefully they come with the whole bracket assembly. I need to go check that too, but there's a thought that I had, and I'm actually looking at it the other way. I want to know whether I can put a 2UZ VVTi one onto a 3UZ to solve another problem I talked about in the video. I'm not going to discuss it with that other ECU manufacturer because they've got it wrong. And so that's what I was wanting to look. That's why I've ordered some. Right. But we need some more information about what's going on here and what I think has actually gone on after all this, and why is that signal, and it's a long time to get there, what is going on with this signal. So there is a signal being generated. If we look up here, we're looking around about 2 volts, which by my reckoning should be, oh wait, can we just drop 2.06 volts, 2.06 volts. Now, in there, and we're going to go here, in here, on trig 1 with the reluctor, sorry, wait a minute, I need to go back. Reluctor filtering level is low. Okay. Because it's on a 4GR, 2GR, this is on a V6 option, it doesn't give you the ability to see whether it's on a rising or falling. I'll be on this one because this is optical. There it is. Don't worry me. I'm getting too much going through the head. Right. So what it allows me here is it allows me to set the threshold that the signal needs to pass to for the ECU to say yes, it's there. So on reluctors, we can change that voltage. So it's right here. So we can set the voltage. So I crank it, low crank, it's like down here, 0.3. And then as it gets up more in the revs, you can make it higher, and that can help with the way it runs and stop false triggers and all those sorts of things. Okay, so that's that one, but we're not worried about number one trigger, because that's working. The crank trigger is working. Remember, it does run. That's working. It's the cam trigger or the sync. So we click on here. So optical hall, the pull-up is on and the trig edge is falling. Okay, now we noted that that sensor is different. It's not a reluctor sensor. So what we're going to do, we're going to pop in here. We're going to here and we go up to the help file, and you notice I had one UR typed in there if you were paying attention. I have a 1 UR to wire into a jet boat with the standard computer, and I think they run the same sensor as the 2GR. It's the same as the 2UZ VVTi. Now, it's kind of a different sensor, and the voltage outputs are really low. I can't tell you if the sensors are exactly the same because the 2UZ one comes in that little bracket. Sarah's going to check the numbers on the actual sensor itself, and then we're going to cross-reference it over to see if it is exactly the same as the 2GR sensor. That sensor and the 2GRs fits zillions of models, so this is going to become a problem in other Toyotas as well. But I'm going to type 2GR, and I'm going to push enter. It brings up these help menus here, and we're going to click on that one. That's a picture of the sensor, looks very much like that. There's the plug. Now, we're going to read this. Due to the low voltage output of the Toyota 2GRFE cam sensor, often requires an external 2.2K pull-up resistor to be connected between the plus 5 volt and the sensor output. Set the ECU's internal pull-up resistor to off. Set the ECU's internal pull-up resistor to off. It's on. I don't know whether Sarah's put that resistor in, and it would be so easy to miss this. We're going to go back here. Cam position sensor connected to a trigger or digital input. If the 2GR-FE cam sensor is connected to a trigger or digital input, use a 2.2K pull-up resistor as shown in the diagram below. Up you go. So there's your sensor ground. Going to pin 2. I hope that works with Sarah's diagrams. Voltage out to pin 3. And trig 2 to pin 1, looking into the sensor. Those numbers are probably actually wrong too, Sarah. Just be real careful, because Toyota, looking into a sensor like that, would normally go 3, 2, 1. It's on the connector. However, so use this diagram, because this is the one that Link provided with possibly the incorrect pinouts. But you can check on the Toyota one, and it should actually say that the 5 volt supply to the sensor is actually on pin 1, is what I'm expecting, which was in a video. I wonder if I can find it. Wait there. No, I couldn't find what I wanted. Not that important at the moment. Hopefully at this point there is an epiphany happening. I've had lots of epiphanies on this job, or eureka moments where, as I said, the knowledge was there, but there was a couple of bits missing to connect the dots. Right, so we have to have a pull-up on there, and then we go here, and it's got some settings. So it's a 6-cylinder. It's not a 6-cylinder. We're going 8-cylinder. EC won't care about that. We can change that. Don't worry about that. Trigger mode 2GRFE. Top one is reluctor, and there is the expected voltages. They're close enough. Trig 2, wired to bank 1 inlet cam position sensor, which is the front one. Optical hall. Trig 2 pull up is off and falling. Trigger 2 pull up is off. It is not presently off. It's presently on. So I think that needs to be turned off. Fingers crossed that Sarah just missed putting the resistor in. And if she does that, that solves the problem. And you know what? We're going to see this lots on these Toyotas, and that sensor's fitted to a lot. I even think it's on the 2ZZs and some of those sorts of vehicles as well. I wonder if we can check that. Using that search function, 2ZZ. 2ZZ. Oh, that's reluctor. I wonder what other Toyotas could have that sensor. 3UR. Haul on. Maybe they have enough and they can actually pick it up on that. But I think that some of the URs run a very similar sensor. Right, so back to where we were. I'm thinking that, there we go. I'm thinking there's a problem with that. The resistor's missing, so we're getting that, but we're not getting a signal here. Now, I'm all about actually teaching people how to solve their problems themselves. And I've managed to turn this video into something that people can learn from. Understand a lot, it's way over time, I don't care. This is an important topic going forward, and it's important that people have knowledge. I think Sarah's going to be able to nail this because I've seen the skills that she's got, but I reckon this is going to sort this out. Or if this isn't that, we've got plan B of 3UZ stuff, and I will check out, and I'm going to do that anyway because I'm interested to know, because it's going to solve another one of my problems. So I hope that's been helpful. I haven't yet made proper communication with Sarah, so I'm running blind here. I'm okay. It could be a huge stuff up, but I don't think so. So I hope that's been helpful, and we'll talk to you again soon.